Well, apparently, I'm alive. I don't know whether you can hear me and hear me clearly, but if you move my mouth close to the microphone, maybe that would do it. Yeah, okay, I've got little green dots moving around because I've got myself a new microphone just to purely for the purposes of making me believe that I'm a Radio 1 DJ from God alone knows when. And I'm here for you. I'm here for you today to talk about whatever pops into my head, and also to do, on the basis that that's what you're interested in, a little tarot reading for you, which could be fun, could be interesting, could be beneficial, could inspire you creatively, or maybe it won't be for you. Doesn't really matter. You can tell I'm being serious today because I'm wearing a purple t-shirt. Okay, it's the same purple t-shirt which I used to, well, I was wearing when cleaning the bathroom, but on the other hand, it's still a purple t-shirt, which makes me look like I am, of course, part and parcel of the entire scene and the rest of that. So hello to the first viewer out there, and welcome to the channel, and welcome to me being live and saying hello to you people for no particular reason. We may only get like about 2 or 3 people watching. We may get 15 people watching. We may get about 30 people. We may have the entire internet pouring onto my little video, although I strangely doubt that. It's just going to be me and probably a small group of friends having a wonderful night of tarot and night of talking and seeing what good we can do. Whenever I do a live thing, it's a perfect opportunity for you to ask me any questions that you think is right for you, your personal development, your interest in tarot, and all the rest of that. And in the meantime, whilst we're waiting for people to come along and see, oh my God, that crazy person is actually live and is actually talking to me, I will probably go into a little bit of talk about the tarot, about the Ouija board, about a few other fun things which I'm interested in and is fun. Spiritually speaking, I still regard myself as a transcendental deist, which means the search for spiritual experience, but also being able to ask questions and not necessarily adopting a dogmatic point of view. Apart from the fact that, we're all here to grow and to change and to experience the wonders of three-dimensional material world life and so on and so forth. But either way, I am a professional tarot reader. This has been my job now for over 16 years. No, just under 16 years, full-time professionally, although I did do my first ever psychic fair at the age 19, which demonstrates how interested in the trade I was, even when I was a very young, naive, stupid individual who's basically just didn't fully understand everything. But my interest was there. The interest was there for a good reason. I believed then, and I believe now, that this particular subject, or the subjects that I tend to talk about, have some kind of importance. I'm not doing this for a laugh. I'm not doing this expressly for the purposes of self-promotion. I'm here because I actually do believe, with a great level of sincerity, that these strange experiences that I've spoken about, associated with things like divination and what you call practical magic, if that's even a phrase that works these days, has some kind of importance because it says something about the way in which the world could actually be working alongside everything that the scientists and doctors and all the rest of that tell us about. Okay, I'm not anti-science, I am pro-science. I am not anti-skeptical questioning thoughts. I am pro that because I think that that is an important way of building understanding. I am much more of the opinion that discussion and debate is not the best way of finding the truth. It is a good way of finding out who is the best at arguing and who is the best at bullying. I don't think it is necessarily the best method for the search for the truth. And the only way you can do that is to create the right experiments over a long enough period of time in order to gain some kind of perspective about how things could be operating. And that's what I've been doing when it comes to things like my personal health, as well as finding out about the wonderful world of the weird. Because obviously, if you're going to be delving into this corner of reality, this corner of social interaction, that I happen to, by default, be a part of, then what you're going to do is you're going to come across a whole stream of stupid ideas and stupid people talking rubbish. And the tradition of people involved in occultism and witchcraft and spiritualism and magic and all the rest of that, saying things which are a little exaggerated, is not new. Even great people like Alphonse Louis Constant and Aleister Crowley were not completely immune to this. Okay, that's going back like a century, 2 centuries, 3 centuries. You know, that the tendency that people have got to create folk myths and to broadcast them very heavily and to make people want to believe this shit is, you know, there's rather a lot of it about. There always has been. In anything from your spiritualist church down to the particular specific sections of the bookshop you go to the social occasions you might be a part of, which will have people in it who profess to be magicians and occultists and witches and pagans and all the rest of that, and chaos magicians, but still don't quite know what the flying hell they're talking about. All right? Because the bottom line is, all people who are involved in anything are still learning about the world. And as a species, we don't actually know all that much. We think we do because we've got cool, shiny things like mobile phones and Windows technology and all this stuff, but we're not all that advanced intellectually or technologically or culturally or socially. The creature you see before you now is still a very primitive human. So is the person who looks at you when you look in the mirror. And so too is the person who's prepared to give you all of their wisdom about a wide variety of different subjects. Got a question here that says, is electricity magic? Well, no, electricity is electricity. It's electrons flowing along a wire, just like the balls in Newton's cradle pushing their force through the line of balls suspended on strings. So electricity is a force in nature, which is innate. It is born into nature, and humans have learned to harvest it and to harvest energy, convert the energy into electricity, and then use that to travel and move it around the world. But things with electricity are interesting because it seems to have more opportunities for good use. Like when I discovered, here we go, if I can pick it up and show you. When I discovered the technology by this company here called Spooky 2, that's spooky with a number 2 beside it, which is about healing the body through frequencies. It's a frequency generator, okay? I actually had experiences which proved it, and proved it to myself conclusively. I have a history of chronic fatigue syndrome, candidiasis, leaky gut, and a fair few other things. And when I felt the need to look into complementary health a certain number of years ago, I would see lots of stuff about Rife frequency therapy and Spooky 2 appearing in my YouTube feed and on my Twitter and all sorts of things. And then eventually I bit the bullet and bought myself zappers and I experimented with them and had things happening. So electricity is something which is more useful than even the engineers, doctors, scientists, and the rest of it understand as of yet. But it's only the fringe world, the kind of like frontier science, so to speak, which has actually stumbled on the truth. However, what I don't think we can do is just say, just because something is not FDA approved, it is therefore reliable. So that's why you need to not only look at other people's, what are they called, anecdotes as to the healings that they've had or the experiences that they've had, but you also have to put them to the test because their perceptions could be wrong. And I think we have to understand where people's perceptions come from. Yeah, it is interesting. All right. People's perceptions affect the way in which we interpret reality. I made some very big mistakes in my life from my young days. You're looking at a few lines in a particular book, and I thought those particular, that's saying something that's really, really important, and therefore I must do various things. And the process of me doing those things actually led to an awful lot of social embarrassment. It was terrible. So there's another question for you. How do you reconcile with placebo? There are experiments which you can do, occult experiments, magical experiments, okay, which can give you an experience for yourself, which is a personal experience. That personal experience could be down to a few things, which we can roughly categorize, I think, okay, in terms of, number one, your body and your mind is out of sorts. You're deficient in vitamins and minerals. You've got an infection. You got a fever. You got a disease. There's something wrong with you physically, and that has created an environment whereby all of your occult experimentation acts like suggestion, and then creates essentially a hallucination or another form of delusional experience. That's one way. Another point of view would be that you are receiving or projecting something which is genuine, but what you understand about it is not sufficiently in depth. Okay, so therefore you could end up extrapolating further and not necessarily logically to what the experience could be. You discuss it with yourself numerous times, and then that creates a reality in your mind. So you can become delusional, as it were, cognitively, or using your intelligence in a way which is not necessarily in keeping towards the process of finding the truth. And the final one, I would say, is that there is something genuine going on and it's not wishful thinking. But again, when that happens, then you have to ask yourself, what? Okay, because you can't suddenly, like, I did this thing, I spent a couple of years being obsessed with that book by Sylvan Muldoon and Harewood Carrington called The Projection of the Astral Body, which every single one of you must get a copy of because it is simply beautiful. It's divine. All right, and it's the closest thing to a science we've got for astral projection. Okay, I did that 2 whole years, every single night, willing it, forcing it to happen, practicing doing the exercises as best as I could, and then hey presto, I had a situation when I was standing on the other side of my bedroom and I looked back and I could see my body, and then like a rush of wind, I was sucked back into my body, and with a jolt I came awake. That was odd. But even when I had that first experience, okay, I had to question it. Then I did another one, and I did the experience of being in the astral body and walking through a wall. And it does feel like the body is made of steam and it's whistling through a very thin gauze. This is true. This is an accurate description of how it felt. And I did walk into someone else's house in the astral form, and I did walk around it, and it was quite interesting. One curious point is that sometimes if you've done that on somebody else and they're in, let's say, a house that they've recently decorated and moved the furniture around, what you might end up seeing and describing to them is the way it was before they moved the furniture around. I've had that experience. And I also spoke to a lady in a psychic fair who said she'd done the same thing. She'd walked into someone's house in the astral form and saw that the furniture was moved around differently. Okay, which I think is like, oh my word, when you've had a direct experience and it correlates perfectly with someone else's direct experience, you think to yourself like, okay, maybe there is something to this and I'm not just wasting my time. But then it's a question of what is true, how far can I take it, how far can I extrapolate with my reasoning about what is actually possible, rather than just walking up to people who I meet socially in a pagan event and say, well, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that. I'm so cool. Yeah, you know what I mean? You know what I mean, right? I can do this, I can just do it, mate. Yeah, just I've actually known people who are like that. And I still am viscerally against their thoughts. All right? And there's other people who turn around and just says, it works, which is such a glib statement. It is not useful. I mean, think about it. Why is it that you are curious about this stuff? I mean, on one side of things, yes, you've got questions. You've had a few strange experiences, maybe. You're curious about what could actually be true. All right? But on the other hand, maybe there's something else going on. And this is where it gets dangerous, where people use that kind of glib confidence to talk about the subjects. Because they start making their own leaps of thinking. And they start thinking, okay, I've got a terminal disease. This guy can cure me. Just because you misspoke. It's not true. You can't cure them. You don't have the power. You don't have the knowledge. You don't have the understanding. You don't have the training. Even if you were to join the Radionics Association and become a professional radionic healer, basically a professional spiritualist healer of sorts, using remote technology and DNA samples and all the rest of that, and pendulums and radionic machines like the one that I've actually a bigger, better one than the one I've got. Okay. It will take you years and years and years and years and years of dedicated learning and practice to be good enough to qualify. So the average silly billy in a pub all right, drinking their Newcastle Brown, wearing their black death metal t-shirts, thinking, yeah, I'm a witch, I'm a pagan, I'm so cool, or whatever. Or I'm an occultist, I'm a magician, I'm a chaos magician, I'm a this, that, and the other, right? They're actually being dangerous. And I think they're actually being harmful. Okay? Because you can't talk with that certainty about something like this. What did Rasputin use for healing? That's a very good question. He's a very curious character from history. And I think he's a combination of laying on of hands plus a few other folk things, but he was also an outrageous sexual predator, and all kinds of other fun things. He probably would be a great person in a party, you know what I mean? I mean, Rasputin is someone who is very enigmatic, very mysterious, very complicated as well. I think in some respects, he reminds me of Salvador Dali, because I think he was incredibly talented, but he was also quite mad and also completely up the wall sexually. Definitely an interesting person to read about. But anyway, what were we talking about? Yeah, we can quickly go back to the subject of astral projection, because I've got a question there that says, do others see you? To the most part, no. No. Even good psychics might not see you. Okay? You're mainly there alone. But occasionally, you can come across a spiritual entity when you're doing it. That's the way it seems. Okay? I mean, I'm going to use some tech terminology from the occult world, the magical movement, you might want to call it, at the moment, because it's convenient. Obviously, if I say I've had an astral projection in which I saw a couple of my spirit guides, then that means I'm using the language of the occult magical culture. It doesn't mean to say I have seen my spirit guides. What it does mean to say is that I have had an experience when attempting an astral projection in which there were people there who I interacted with briefly prior to being sucked back into my body, because I know I got too excited or whatever. Because the state of mind you need to attempt to get it done right is very calm, very tranquil, very relaxed, and also enjoyable. If you get excited, then in your dream vision state, your astral projection or whatever, you will then be sucked back to your body, because your body is getting animated again. Your body is, heart rate's going up and all this stuff. So you're reaching the wakeful state. It's unbelievably difficult to do and to get right, to get that experience perfect, because you've got to be so relaxed and so tranquil, and your body's got to be so comfortable when you're lying in bed. All right? There's so many little factors which you've got to work out and study. I heard you can open a door or shadow to shadow people. I have not seen any experience. I have not had an experience of that. All right? And when people talk about shadow people, that's another phrase from the occult community, isn't it? It's not a phrase from the spiritual or magical world, that there are these things, hello Valencia, which are out there and they exist. All right, this is the opinion, this is the belief, but it becomes a dogmatic belief for some people. I mean, as far as dogmatism is concerned, we've got the dogmatism of fundamentalist Christianity, which is atrocious. I'm not against Christianity, I'm not against the church, even though they are against me. Okay, it's an important distinction. Okay, the church hates me because of what I am. They hate me and regard me as being worse than a member of the LGBTQ plus community, because they say I'm a witch. People who are gay and bisexual and transgendered, they can move upwards within the Church of England. I got as far as church warden, and then someone thought, oh, I've seen his face before or something, and told the archdeacon, and I got kicked out of the Church of England. I leave my positions of responsibility in the church. But yet gays, whom the church also hates, are allowed to become vicars. So what do they think of me? What do they think of us? Important question, really, isn't it? Anyway, that's that done. Okay, let's go back to talking about shadow people. We would have to ask the question, what are they? Why are they there? What interest do they have in you, or have an interest in you experiencing them? What does the mythology say? What do the alleged experts say about shadow people? Okay, do we actually know? The point is no. I mean, the description that people give of these shadow people is a description. It's not necessarily a hard fact, is it? No. It is a description of something. It's a description of an experience. Oh, I saw a shadow person. Oh, I saw a ghost. Did you? You had an experience which is culturally defined in some particular key ways as seeing a ghost. An experience of seeing a shadow person. What does that experience mean? Does it mean to say that shadow people exist as separate existing entities? Or does it mean to say that you can have the experience which makes you feel that these things could possibly be real or have some kind of objective reality? One would assume, I would assume, that different individuals, because of their psychological makeup and their spirituality, would probably be more inclined to have some particular type of experiences because of the way in which they are built as people. Okay, now you could then move on to another part of the debate and say that that's because their aura is in a certain shape. Barbara Ann Brennan, in her books on spiritual healing, had some wonderful plates, wonderful illustrations of what the aura could look like under various different circumstances. Some of it makes some sense because you can work out how you feel mentally and whether that connects to what she's talking about. Okay, and yes, for those of us who have periodically seen auras or had the experience of seeing something which appeared to be an aura, we can start to think that maybe there is some validity to it. But we also have to ask questions. But as the various different psychological defense mechanisms is mentioned by her in the book, and it does show the aura being different or different chakras being open, some bigger and some smaller, and all the various different forms of physical health and psychological and emotional health being defined by different configurations of chakras and layers of the aura and things in the aura and bits missing from the aura and energy field. So maybe we got some hypothesis there, or some hypothetical foundation to say that there's different individuals in different stages of growth have the ability to do things differently. Okay, children are very good at seeing ghosts because they have fewer mental defenses. Spiritual healers would say that their aura is very different to that of an adult, more sensitive, more malleable. Maybe even there's a protective sheath around the child, which eventually goes as they move into maturity and can control their own energy field, maybe. So children are more likely to see ghosts and angels and fairies and possibly even demons or whatever, on the basis that these things exist and it is not just a form of delusion. Okay? Children, definitely. Insane people, definitely. And I can give you a story about that. Because I was, hello, Bionic. It was great to hear from you again. I'll see you again. And thanks again for watching to all of you, okay? I'm very grateful for every single one of you who watches my videos, and I want you to carry on being good. Right, so when I was younger, I must have been about my early 20s. And I was very keen to find out as much about this subject as I could. And I knew this very interesting individual, shall we call him, who's basically a psychotic. Okay, he had a brain problem as a result of a serious trauma he had. There was a gang of kids who just kicked the flying mecca out of him, and he couldn't handle it, and his brain chemistry flipped. And so he had to be on dopamine in order to make sure he could be a functioning member of society. I took my motorcycle. I was a young man, I had a motorcycle. And I traveled to his little village. And I went to see him. And when I went to see him, it was just after I had spent about 20 or 30 minutes visualizing in meditation a 5-pointed star being drawn on my face in light. But I had struggled to visualize 2 of the points properly. That's a key fact in this story. Because when I went into his bedroom and saw him sitting down and beside his computer or whatever it was, playing a silly game, Atari maybe, I can't remember. He turned around to me and says, "I can see 3 points of a 5-pointed star on your face." That's the first thing you said. Didn't even say hello. So when you've done something which has had an incontrovertible effect on somebody else, then you become aware that there is something true and real about all this. The question still remains, what? And if it is true that there are many different layers of reality, many different planes, different layers to the aura, and all the rest of that, this isn't really something that we could build a complete, not a total level of knowledge of in a short space of time, such as a human life. Okay? We can't really get all the information that we need about this, but that experience shows something, and it was interesting. Okay? I've had other instances whereby, in attempting to do the exercises from the projection of the astral body by Muldoon and Carrington, I then visited people. There was one person I knew in college who wasn't studying well at all. And I thought, okay, I'm a little tired. I'm very relaxed. I'm recovering from being stoned, I think it was, because I was a student and I was stupid and I was smoking pot. And I was just like, hello to the new viewers. And I was just like, okay, I'll do a projection. I'll go out to him and I'll tell him to work harder in my visualization. Okay. I think it was a time of night when he was rather receptive, and it was quite late at night and we were all overtired. We all had the freshest flu, or all of our energy systems were knackered, and we were probably all a bit more sensitive anyway. So I did my projection to him, and I created this dream scenario in my visualization that we were in the dance hall on the campus, and I was grabbing him saying, "You got to study harder." And about a year later, I met him on a pub crawl, and he said, "I had this really weird dream once, and Nick met me in the dance hall, and he grabbed me by the collar and shook me, shouting, 'You must study harder.'" Like, oh, WTF. Seriously. I mean, that was like, that proved to me again something. That under some strange circumstances, it's like almost impossible to precisely pinpoint the state and the condition that the body and the mind and the brain has to be in order to do these things. But it definitely proves something to me there. Yeah, I'm doing fine. It's great to see you there. Okay, when you use divination systems like tarot or oracle cards, where is the meaning of those cards held? Is it objective or detached from the reader? The cards have no meaning. The cards have no meaning. We as humans have created meaning. Our cultures have created meaning. Our cultures have defined poetically what various different colors mean, shapes, symbols. The symbols and the rest of it appear in the card. If you're trying to be a psychic reader, all right, then it's you who's doing the reading, not the cards. Now, there is an argument to say that there could be some kind of causal spiritual connection via energies which helps the cards to come out in a certain order. Some people think that, and maybe that's part of it. But if I lay down a reading, I'm focusing in on the person and the question. And then I will then get flashes of inspiration, which you might call intuition, which is connected to some of the symbols which have appeared on the cards. Now, if we can pick out, I don't know, a relatively plain, ordinary one. You know this one. You know it well. Okay, the Hanged Man from the Book of Thoth Tarot by AC and Lady Frida Harris. Does that have a fixed meaning? At various different times in history, people have tried to give these cards fixed meanings. And what I feel has happened is that a certain mood or energy or attitude has been created as a result of history, which has created some kind of like a basic set of ideas which could be relevant to a hypothetical archetypal meaning of a card, whether it's the Four of Discs or the the King of Swords or the Queen of Cups or anything. Okay, we've added that to it. But because you're someone who spends so much time, studying a tree of life or reading books about tarot, reading books about witchcraft and magic, your mind is being filled all the time with meanings. What does the color blue mean? What does the symbol of Mercury mean? What does blue and yellow mean together? Oh, they're mercurial colors. Why do I think that? Well, I read it in a book by someone years back. But blue and yellow are the colors of Mercury, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I've said the cards have no meaning because what I want you to do is to get used to the fact that it's you doing the work. Okay, you learn to feel comfortable with your symbol system. It becomes your symbol system, and you spend time like in meditation or contemplation looking at various different images and thinking to yourself, oh, well, that could mean that. Oh, well, this book said that can mean that. Hello, Maria. Of course you can ask a question. I'm on live on YouTube. You know, you can actually talk to me. Okay, here's me from my little workroom to you wherever you are in the known world. Okay, you are able to see my face, you're able to hear my voice, and of course you can type something in the chat, and of course, you know, just enjoy the time that you're spending with me. This is a time to just like relax. We're all going to be socially appropriate here. We're also going to be like relaxed and grow together. So when I'm doing my videos about tarot, I often talk about tradition because there is like some key things in tarot history which is laid down around probably about the time of the creation of a Tarot of Marseille, before the Oswald Wirth one. And the Oswald Wirth is very similar to the Tarot of Marseille. And also presumably decks before then, in the early days when the church was trying to use the cards as a means of talking about, you know, this, that, and the other. Actually, no, it wasn't. I don't think it's actually the church which chose it, was it? I don't know. But I know that the church also then like disagreed profoundly because the people were using them for gambling. And then, hey, presto, the church says, no, that's naughty. We shouldn't do that. That's devilish. Don't use church imagery. That's the key phrase there, church imagery, because that's where it comes from, within gambling. And that's when that was like the thing which kickstarted the New Age movement, I believe, so many centuries ago. Okay, so many centuries ago. Because the tarot then ended up in the hands of your gypsy fortune tellers and the people doing their crafts in the fun fairs and traveling circuses and all that stuff. And as opposed to traditional cartomancy, tarot became the thing which was the mysterious thing. Okay. Hello, ST Rider Finn 77. That name is a mouthful. Great to see you YouTubing in straight from Finland. I think it's some 10 years I was here the last time. The notifications haven't been shown for some while. Well, I've had some time to move away from YouTube, to work on myself, to this, that, and the other. Okay, next question. How can I know if there's a bad energy around me? What a question. What do you mean by bad? What do you mean by energy? What do you mean by around you? Okay, and what is it that makes you believe that whatever this bad energy is, it can actually affect your life? By what method of action is it supposed to operate? Okay, because if you're going to ask a question like that, which is so heavily laden with religion, with theology, with belief, I would have to break it down. I'd have to break it down quite a lot and then work out what's really going on here. Now, my history of my health has demonstrated to me that I can have something physically not very good with my body. And sometimes, whether it's through deficiency of B vitamins or an infection, I can actually get experiences which make me think, oh my God, there's something dark going on there. But I'm a bit of an alternative health freak because I have to be. And so since I started doing that, those particular experiences just went. Okay, so you look after your vitamins, look after your minerals, look after your diet, your nutrition, look after your health in terms of exercise, do the best you can, all right, and surround yourself with friends and pleasant experiences and good memories, and that will probably be enough. You know, live a beautifully healthy life. That's essentially the most important thing you could do anyway, and it would be ideal if you could try and focus on that. If you want to go to a spiritualist healer in a spiritualist healing church, then do it anyway, on top of that. But if you're not going to look after your physical, then how is the spiritual going to be able to adjust everything, which is giving you, I don't know, whatever negative experiences it is right now. By question, I mean a question that I can read on. Would I be okay with that? Yeah, sure. What I'm doing, if you want me to do a reading for you here, okay, taking into account we've got an audience and this is going to be obviously recorded and then put out on YouTube when it's finished recording, okay, because that's what we do here, right? I will be happy to do a reading for you, which I will make sure is not going to be too prying or too deep or too unpleasant, because some readings can be. And I'm not going to do anything or say anything to upset anyone today, because that's not my job. All right. But yes, I can do a reading for you. What I would say is that I do this for a living. If you can chip me just a couple of quid using super chat, I think, I don't know, the minimum is like £2 or something. I don't know. If you could do that, then I'll take a few minutes and I will answer your questions for you, and I will do a reading and choose one of my many methods in order to try and make something good and fantastic and wonderful happen for you. Okay. Okay, Maria, you're now saying someone actually told me that there's a bad energy around me. I didn't know what that really was. He told me it was a girl. Yeah, but the question I would want to ask you is not what someone else has said, but why do you believe what they've said? What experiences have you had which has led you to accept the truth that there is some negative energy around you, whether it's male, female, or elemental, or whatever? I want to know what the experience is. I want to know what the symptoms are prior to me actually making a thought as to what could actually be going wrong there. But also, I would only be able to help using whatever limited methods I've got. Because if you are having negative experiences and you're having terrible nightmares at night and you're feeling like blobs of negative energy around your head, or you can stuff like that, then the only way in which someone like me or a spiritual healer could help would be within the level of what they are capable of. But if there's something more advanced than that, you go to a doctor, you go to a psychiatrist, you get yourself counseling, and you do all the other good things about you that you need to for health and well-being of body and mind. All right. I think that there are 10 things which are essential for survival in life. Okay. Health, money, work, family, image, appearance, reputation, property, presence of mind, and skill development for the future. All right. Skill development for the future. Presence of mind. And what are you doing to assist that? I do mindfulness. I try and eat healthy. I'm not very good at that at all, but I try and eat healthy. All right. I've also got a very good, very strong vitamin and mineral nutritional regime. I take herbal supplementation for various different things. And I'm doing the best I can to look after myself physically. But I also periodically do visualizations of energy work as well, in order to try and bring healthy light in from the top and sweep it throughout the whole body. And sometimes the experience is out of feeling this like sluggish, energetic tar sort of falling out of the soles of my feet, which is a weird experience. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. Another fun experiences I could tell you about was when I first started burning sage. This was again when I was young. Actually, what I should do is actually revisit some of the things which happened to me when I was young and actually do more experiments along those lines, because this was curious. Again, I was very physically ill at the time, and I got out my little incense burner, put it on a plate, put it on the floor on the carpet, and burnt some sage on it. Lots and lots of smoke coming up, and I put my head over it. So my head was engulfed in the rising sage smoke. Just sage from the kitchen, not specialist white shamanic sage, just sage from the kitchen. And I could feel stuff being pulled out of my head, and it's like thousands of voices were being removed from my head and taken away by the smoke. So my level of physical ill health at the time was one would hypothesize was making me kind of like home to negative energy. And the sage smoke went into the aura, so it seems hypothetically, which helped to remove some of that dead orgone energy. One could say hypothetically. I'm using the word hypothetical a lot recently for good reason, and it shouldn't take an Einstein to work out why. Does that make sense? Okay. So, I mean, a lot of these experiences can possibly inform you about the way the world works. But as far as I'm concerned, it's like a glimpse. I mean, if, let's say, the sky was so heavily covered in cloud 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, we couldn't see the stars, we couldn't see the moon, we couldn't see the sun. And so no humans ever believed that there was a moon. And then all of a sudden, there's a slight parting in the clouds, and a beam of full moonlight comes down before you. What's that? But you don't know what it is. And the clouds, then the gap in the clouds heals over and it's gone. And you again can't see the moon. You can't see the moonlight. But I saw it. I saw it. I saw it. And then someone says, the moon doesn't exist. It's a myth. It's been created by stupid people who believe stupid things. But I saw it. But you don't know enough. You don't know why the moon is there. You don't know that it's held in our gravitational field. The fact it's in free fall, the fact it's slowly moving away from the Earth over the millennia. You don't understand it's affecting your tides. You don't understand it's affecting this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? Okay, you had a glimpse. That's what we have here. All these little experiences I'm telling you about, they're glimpses. They're not the full study of. All right, they're not the full double-blind controlled trial. They're not the full peer review, this, that, and the other. Actually, these days, double-blind controlled trials aren't necessarily being taken quite as seriously as some forms of citizen science, especially in the cannabis world, funnily enough, which I think the medical cannabis world, that is, not recreational. And I think that's rather interesting. Did you ever get scared during a ritual? And I mean really scared? Yes. I have. I've done some dark mirror work, and my face in the mirror turned into the most horrific horror movie type demon. You know, we talk about the full scaly skin, slitty eyes, horns, and all that. And the emotion I had. The emotion I had as someone who is inquiring and questioning and skeptical and all the rest of that, the emotion I had when that happened, it was pure fear. All right. Sometimes these things happen, not always. I mean, most ritual is essentially just prayer with action, but it's because it's prayer that you're in an altered state of consciousness. And you have to learn what that state of mind is. It's tranquil, reverent, prayerful. It's calm. It's not intense. It's not concentrated with your forehead furrowed and your eyes squinting because you're concentrating really, really hard to visualize something. No, it's the other way around. It's objective. It's calm. It's relaxed. It's tranquil. It's monastic. Serene. Holy, for want of a better word. I mean, even people who don't like Christianity could say that if they walked into a massive, beautiful cathedral, it would feel transporting. It would feel, oh, beautiful, because of the beauty of the architecture, the sculpture, and just the fact it's designed to make you feel open. Now, if you could translate that feeling, that artistically created feeling, into a feeling inside your being, okay, then you're in the right state of mind to be able to do things. That's the way it seems to me. Okay. Other people try and reach that state of mind through the visualization of the chakra colors, whether it's like, I mean, I did this psychic development course a while back, and this lady says you should visualize the sky above you, the aurora borealis above you, changing colors steadily over time from red to orange, green, and all the rest of it. And then you have then the path working carried on with like a crystal in your hand that goes into all the colors and then becomes a beautiful pearlescence, and then hovers above your head and then pours down upon your crown chakra, filling your aura with this beautiful pearlescent light. All right. So you can add more sanctimonious prettiness to your visualization if you want, or you can keep it a bit more like a guy would do. Okay, right, I'm just going to visualize the colors now. Let's just do it, you know what I mean? But at the end of like that kind of exercise, you do feel different. And the lady who was running the course said that's the alpha state. I don't think it's necessarily specifically the alpha state. Sure, it's not a cacophony of energy going on or frequencies going on inside your brain. It's calm. It's very focused. It's like left and right hemisphere synchronization. And if you get yourself a mind machine, strobe light mind machine, you can then learn how to practice synchronization and various different brainwave frequencies. It's also very good if you're suffering from anxiety, stress, depression. It helps you to be calmer if you got that as a routine. I don't always have the time to do mind machine work these days, but I still find a bit of time for some stuff like using the binaural beat generator on my phone. Also, the MindDroid app on the phone now. It also strobes the light at the back. So if I was there with half a dozen people and I wanted all of us to reach, resonate at the same frequency, I could have that in the middle of the floor and we could all be sat around it cross-legged with that light flashing and with our eyes closed, because if you're using a flashing strobe light, your eyes have to be closed. But enough light will still go through in order to create the entrainment of the brain waves. So that could be an interesting way of doing telepathy experiments with people, or if you're in like a group of people who's like all doing, I don't know, candle magic together, or wants to just chill out prior to doing your Ouija board, or say you're all in a healing circle together, maybe that would be a good way of helping, provided of course there's no one in the room who's got migraine or epilepsy or a cardiac seizure complaint or a seizure complaint of any type, because otherwise bad things will happen. Know the medical history of the people you're having fun with if you're going to do something as dangerous as use strobe light. Hi, Tina. It's great to see you. Yeah, Bionic. The Black Mirror is a very interesting, fun tool to play with. And it works on a persistence of vision effects, because you got one candle either side of your face and a little further forward. Then you got the black mirror between the candles, but arranged so the candlelight does not reflect directly off the mirror. Okay, a clip frame with a piece of black cardboard in it is perfect for this, for a black mirror. And you have it angled so that you can see your face in a completely darkened room. Completely darkened. So midnight on Halloween is perfect for this. I like talking about Halloween. And you then go into whatever your thing is. Now, that could be the prayers, such as those mentioned in Transcendental Magic by Alphonse Louis Constant, known as Eliphas Levi. That could be anything. There was one guy on YouTube way back who did this whole series of stuff, and he suggested that you should do like monastic style prayer to invoke or evoke whatever it is you're invoking or evoking. So maybe you could start talking like this and add a bit of chanting in. You know what I mean? And then do your whole thing like that, which psychologically is actually quite good, because like no one normally either talks or sings like that. So it's like a behavior which is set apart. All right. So if you can like do the chakra opening, the entering into the alpha state or whatever it's going to be, and then you can set up a black mirror and you can set up your candles and you can do that sort of thing, nice and long and tranquil and meditative, and then stare into the mirror. I mean, maybe you want to do the prayers or the meditations with your eyes closed, and it's only once you feel there's a slight change in the air, so to speak, when you feel the presence of something that you want to open your eyes and say, Spirit, appear to me in this class, amen. Let me see your face and answer to me clearly and truly the questions which I ask you about past, present, and future. Provide me with inspiration, provide me with wisdom. Amen. Then maybe, just maybe, you too can have the flying scared out of you. Or not, as the case may be. I mean, I want people to start learning more about Black Mirror scrying. I want people to practice it. I want people to learn more about tarot. I want people to practice it. I want people to learn more about spiritual healing and to practice it. I mean, how the world is going to end up in another 5 or 10 centuries, I don't know. But I can't believe that this stuff, all of this weird, magical, psychic, spiritual stuff, will not be properly studied at some point in the future. and once it has been studied at some point in the future, then I think that there will be new ideas and theologies to try and help make it work. I know some people think that, like, the destruction of Christianity and the creation of witchcraft and making everyone a witch would probably do it. No, it wouldn't. Because what would happen is you just have lots more people who are more willing to not think things through. Okay? Like, on one side of things, you got the Christian fundamentalists who believe a load of rubbish. On the other side of things, you got the atheists who are skeptical about absolutely everything, even to the point of denying something which could easily be true. But they want to use argumentation in order to try and defeat their enemy, rather than necessarily experimentation and research in order to try and advance their knowledge and the knowledge of other people, and also to try and provide solutions for human health, human understanding, and human communication. So there is a problem I have with some departments, shall we say, of the atheist thinking. Not the whole thing. I think that they're still doing a wonderful job in being critical of rank stupidity. But they've got to be very careful that they don't become rankly stupid themselves. Then, of course, you got the UFO believers, and they don't necessarily string intelligent thoughts together. Seriously, if you want to get the best cardio workouts in your life without leaving your couch, just watch Ancient Aliens. Your blood pressure will be through the roof, and you'll be screaming at the top of your voice at the television set throughout the whole show. All right, your heart will be going 10 to the dozen. You know why? Because you're bloody furious. But this is like on mainstream television. Ancient Aliens on mainstream television. A backwatered yellow journalism channel on YouTube would make a lot more sense, rather than actually on but the Blaze channel on Freeview is just like ghastly. You got to watch that stuff like with your tongue in your cheek and learning to filter through all the stupidity, because lots of these shows are made for different reasons. Either it's just because like the guy wants to earn more money and get more famous, okay, or it's because there is something political going on here. I think it was that's right, Paranormal State, the Penn State psychic investigators. That one was like very clever, but it was just about promoting Christianity and suggesting everything else is demonic. And it took me a fair few shows for me to realize the whole thing was a political piece for the church, to try and take people who are interested in the paranormal and scare them away from it, so that they end up doing what conservative fundamentalists wanted them to do, which I find rather upsetting, to be quite honest. Okay, so Bionic says, speaking of Eliphas Levi, isn't he the first individual who portrayed Baphomet as a goat-headed deity? Baphomet was depicted as a three-faceted deity before that, according to some French documentaries. I think he applied that name to his illustration, and the illustration, because it looked so diabolical, okay, became a popular image for what the devil could be. It was his illustration, definitely. And it was quite fun. But remember, he was trying to communicate essentially a Catholic idea with it, to suggest that humanity is animal, and we're all trying to like reach the heights of God somehow. And that's what he's saying. We're all beasts looking up at heaven. And that's why the Baphomet, which he drew, had both male and female attributes. He's got a whopping great phallus as well as having boobs, because it's both male and female. And it's therefore both men and women. It's not that women are bad or men are bad. It's a question of humans got problems, which is actually quite accurate. Humans do have problems, but I still think it's a cool image. It's not quite the sort of thing I'd have tattooed on my back, but because there's enough about me to make the vast majority of civil society hate me anyway. So why would I want to do anything even more in your face and dangerous and dark and stupid? Okay, keep your questions coming. I'm here until I get bored or I get tired or my throat starts to give up. I think a lot of this is a lot of the people who are involved in the occult movement don't stay around. Haven't you noticed that? All right. Some people just like play around for a while and then they bugger off and do something else and, raise a family and this, that, and the other and get a job somewhere, but they give it up. And I think that's awfully sad as well. Because if you've just seen that allegorical ray of moonshine from heaven for the first time, if you don't develop a real interest in finding out what's really going on in the world, I think that's incredibly sad. And just to turn around and say, well, that was just delusion, just hallucination, just a lot of mustard that was causing my digestive system, causing me to have a bad dream. No, I think that's completely wrong and stupid. I think these things should be understood and studied. I mean, mindfulness teaches you, when you do mindfulness and you do it properly, okay, mindfulness meditation properly, what that teaches you to do is to look at what's going on inside your mind and to be in a state of acceptance that it is the function of the mind to have thoughts. What is delusional is to assume that those thoughts have been thought through. And I think some people have thoughts and they think that they thought things through because they've had a thought or a feeling or a mood or an emotion. Mindfulness doesn't separate you from that, but it does teach you to understand that what's going on inside your mind is not necessarily the you. Okay? You learn to perceive the true you, the center of your decision making, as being separate to the cacophony and chatter that goes on inside the mind. I think it's the people who do the ayahuasca ceremony who try and do something to silence the mind initially, and they use a form of nasal snuff called harpe or rape, which contains lots of tree ash, tree woods being burnt, as well as very strong tobacco. And the strong tobacco, which is different to the stuff we use for regular European or English nasal snuffs, and is stronger. So that plus the ashes plus all the other stuff that goes in gives you a different state of mind, and it's believed to quieten the mind. My experiences with harpe shows that that's true. So what they do is they do harpe first to give them a state of mind which is almost blank, so that they can then be in a mindful state when they're going through the psychedelic experience of ayahuasca. And people involved in the magic mushroom ceremonies as well, because there's retreats for that too. Also have the maybe harpe or a mindfulness session beforehand to give them clarity and to give them calm and balance so that they can process the experience that they're going through better. I'm not quite sure why Luke is asking if I drink cranberry juice, because if everyone has some sometimes. I used to, when I was young, I drank cranberry juice. I didn't see the point. I mean, it's just another juice. I mean, maybe it's cleansing and good for you and helps with various parts of the body. And I mean, pomegranate is very good for parts of the body. If you're male, pomegranate juice, I take that in capsules because I'm a middle-aged man. So there is lots of things in the natural world already which can be healthy or can have some beneficial properties. I don't feel comfortable using the word curative, but definitely some variety of extra healing benefit, nourishing, or some extra chemicals which is naturally present within the food, which does you good. That's why people who have gouts don't eat spinach, because there's I can't remember which chemical it is in spinach which actually damages you when you got gout. But then there's other foods which are healing for gout and so on and so forth. And then there's all the people who do the apple cider vinegar and as a means to reduce the mucoid plaque in the digestive tract and to reduce mucus throughout the rest of the body as part of the healing plan. Bionic says, I'm going to try ayahuasca, but I'm kind of scared. I've heard some horror stories. Well, obviously this channel is not specifically about drugs, is it? No. But if you were to spend more time looking at channels which are talking about drugs, whether it's like ayahuasca, magic mushroom, or even like microdosing of LSD and that sort of stuff, then maybe you can get some more information about how people do it. I think the phrase they use is start small and go slow or something like that. I mean, I don't know. I'm not really in that world myself, but I'm curious about what that world is about, because like there's interesting ideas, especially this new talk about using psychedelics for both for therapy as well as for their curative properties. I think that's very, very interesting that the world is changing quite so much, and also like microdosing of cannabis for the purposes of dealing with things like Alzheimer's and dementia. And I think there's going to be lots of science which is going to be coming out over the coming 10 years, and lots of changes over the next 10 years with like the growing legalization of cannabis, the growing legalization of this, that, and the other, which will bring more science into how these things could be used medically and spiritually. I'm asking because I've seen your food growing plants in the garden videos. I love drinking tea but can't caffeine. I don't do caffeine that much. I drink about 1 cup of coffee a week these days, and that's when I'm doing like a big manic cleaning job around the house, because I haven't got time to do it every day of the week. I just like, okay, it's Saturday, it's 9 o'clock, right? Get out the AeroPress and make myself a double espresso and zzz, okay, I want to do some cleaning and tidying and hoovering now. Everybody get out of my way. So keeping off caffeine for an extended period of time and then having 1 cup of coffee is quite an interesting experience. Let's just, just say that. But if you were curious about ayahuasca and you've read this, that, and the other saying you've got to prepare it in this way, that way, and the other way, well, why don't you like? And I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical practitioner, I'm certainly not, anyway, at this stage in my life, a psychedelic facilitator. But you might want to like divide that dose by 10 and see how that affects you, and then go up to the next dose and see how that affects you. Because I think ayahuasca is supposed to be one of those ones that makes you throw up, isn't it? You pour mucus and you throw up and your bowels open, and if you weren't high as a kite, then you probably wouldn't enjoy it. I never done ayahuasca. Okay, it might be fun if I can get like loads of money together to just like bugger off to a retreat and see what happens and say, listen, man, I'm a beginner, go easy with me. I don't want to completely fry my brains today. But, can substances be used spiritually? Again, that's hard to say. But when I was young, I did something incredibly stupid. I wanted to enter into a meditative state of mind. I basically, I was young. I was late teens, and I took a teapot and I filled half of it up with hops. The stuff used for brewing beer, because hops itself is a sedative, a relaxant, and a narcotic, which has hypnotic effects. When I heard this, I thought, maybe I could meditate with it, but never use that quantity of hops ever, because it can seriously damage your kidneys. All right. Maybe you want to use like a teaspoon, just like the sleepy time tea. Have some of that with some regular caffeinated tea, so you're perked up, but you're also relaxed, and then go into meditation, and then see what happens. And what I did when I overdosed, dangerous overdosing it was, which I'm not proud of, and I'm not condoning, and I'm not encouraging under any circumstances. But I could see light pouring out of my hands. There was this like purple aura around my hands, and when I put my fingers together like that, there was literally bolts of lightning I could see. What's going on? What's going on is like I was trance-like, and I was open, and I could see energy. But it wasn't. I don't think it was to do with the drug. It wasn't to do with the hops. It was to do with the fact I'd already been doing chakra opening type stuff and meditation already. It's just that this created an extra, more positive environment for me to have that experience. Hello, hey, Avalon. Jesus Christ, brother, how's it going? It's good to see you again. I haven't caught much more of your guitar work on Facebook recently, but if you do put more of that stuff out, then I'll be delighted to give it a to listen to it. Yeah, I agree. The whole thing about set and setting is very complicated. Whether it's you're talking about the recreational drugs market, or whether you're talking about just like being someone like me and trying to do meditation. It's always but like the interesting thing about that is it's a challenge. It's an intellectual and emotional, creative challenge. Okay, why couldn't I get into meditation last night? Well, I'd had a bad day. I know I had a bad day. That's why I wanted to get into meditation. But why couldn't I get into meditation last night? Well, there was something wrong with what's happened on that day. What happened on that day? Did someone say something which triggered me? If someone said something which triggered me, it got under my skin and it's now affecting me, then what was that? Okay, so that was that. Now, why did I get triggered on that thing? Is that really relevant to today? Is it relevant to my life today? So you can use your failures in meditation to teach you about set and setting when it comes to doing meditation, drinking hops tea, and possibly hypothetically for those who do engage with magic mushroom and ayahuasca and the rest of that, and have a more intense experience, which is based upon like what's they're sensitive to, then it could be useful for growth to go into that creative exercise. But most people don't. Most people can't, and nor do they want to. All right, but they still want to have the truth. They still want to have the knowledge. It's like when you go into like when I was young and I went into pubs, there was always someone there who was an expert at something. Really? No. But they said they were, and they wanted to believe that they were, and they were lying to themselves and to others. See where I'm coming from here? There's people like that all around the world. In fact, it's part of the human condition. Okay, Luke, if the doctor says you should have cranberry juice, then maybe you might be able to find a dried cranberry juice capsule somewhere. So maybe you could drink it when you can face it and take capsules when you can't. Just as a hypothesis, and discuss that with a doctor first. Don't just rely upon some stupid ass punk like myself giving you suggestions over the internet, because I'm just a person. I'm a very special person, but I'm still just a person. We need not be reductionistic in any way, be that biologically, psychologically, scientifically. Each of these disciplines are perceiving the same information field. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. I mean, whenever anyone is studying nature, they're studying a part of it. They're studying a part of the entire interconnected thing, which is life, the universe, and everything. Okay, interconnected, the web of weird, or whatever linguistic device you want to call it. But scientific attitudes are reductionistic. Haven't you noticed that like scientists and engineers are at war with each other? When I was at school, there was a presentation done by a group of engineers. They said, people say, well, scientists did this, scientists did that. No, it was the engineers. It was the engineers. And they're already saying that to make them look good, because there's a war going on between the scientists and the engineers, just like there's a war going on between the different factions of scientists which are out there in the world, and they all hate each other, and they're all arguing, and they're all like being a bit backstabby when trying to get their stuff published. So there is going to be something wrong with the science and politics of the here and now, because we're in this culture of greed, we're in this culture of selfishness, we're in this culture of doing the other guy down, and it's all part of capitalism. And we just got to like get together, get united, and stop thinking rubbish as a world. Okay, I'm breathing air right now that's been made by algae from an ocean thousands of miles away. The oxygen that I'm breathing now is connected to an ocean thousands of miles away. You can't say we're individuals. We're all somehow connected. All right? Just reading through some of the comments here. The energy model of magic seems unfashionable or dismissed as New Age thinking now. Yes, I found building up a reservoir of prana chi before an operation makes it much more successful. What are your thoughts? Well, my thoughts are you are right. Building up a reserve of that energy, making your aura brighter. What were the words that Crowley said? 4 words. Type them into the chat if you remember them. Do you remember them? Do you know what they are? Those 4 words? Inflame thyself with prayer. Inflame. To make alive. Burning. If you do a chanting, all right, you sit down, lotus position, or lying on your back, or sitting on a chair in the Egyptian position, whichever one you think. No, it's not. The one I'm thinking about is not "do as thou will." That means nothing. It's a useless phrase. The phrase is "inflame thyself with prayer." We're talking about magic and witchcraft and occultism now. We're not talking about religion and politics. Okay, inflame, make it bigger, make brighter, make more powerful. Thyself, namely you, with prayer. Okay, it's not a dirty word. If you're against Christianity, you might see it as a dirty word. But it isn't, because it's the same thing. One of my older videos, not very old, it's just old, I showed you a passage from a book by Peter Radati, who is a radionics professional and has written an awful lot and spoken an awful lot and experimented and does radionics. Radionics is a form of spiritual healing and also witchcraft, which uses technology as a means of delivery. Okay. And he said that when Wiccans who are doing their circle casting, as well as when Christian mystics who are doing laying on of hands healing, okay, were analyzed by the EEG machine, the electroencephalograph, I think it's called, they had the same brainwave frequencies. So it's the same state of mind, no matter what your operation, whether it's genuine tarot reading, whether it is spiritual healing, whether it is circle casting, whether it is summoning a demon from hell to do your bidding because that's what you think is right. The state of mind is prayer. Now, if you're wishy-washy and your aura is not all that bright, how could you actually affect a change? All right. I think it wasn't Libanol and Psychonaut. It was one of the other books that was associated or attributed to Peter J. Carroll. I think it was Prime Chaos. He explained it like a mathematical equation. And the quantity of energy that you're raising and building up has to be powerful enough to do something and operating against what it is you're trying to influence. And if it isn't big enough, and the energy is not big enough, it's not going to do anything. All right? It's like, what other kind of analogy could I pull out of my head? If you want to start a car, you got to have a full battery. If your battery is dead, you won't be able to get the mechanism working. Okay, so just as if I was, okay, well, it's Tuesday afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, according to my tradition, if I light a yellow candle, then the whole world will do my bidding. And hey presto, it doesn't. Oh dear, what happened there? What happened there was, your energy field wasn't bright enough. There were too many other energetic forces around which are interfering. This is the hypothesis, okay? None of us know whether this is true or not. This is just a hypothesis in the way it seems to be based upon experience. Even if that's just, even if it's just like an operation to affect your own energy field and the way in which you're changing your perceptions. Like when I did a chanting, which basically was a magical ritual, way back in the day. I was a teenage kid. I heard about the Buddhist chants, Nam Marengo Ko, and I did that. And I did it with, initially, for a laugh, just for a laugh. Just going to repeat this chant whilst I'm preparing for bed. Okay, it was a summer, I'm relaxed. It's been a hot day. I'll just do this chant because I'm weird. And so I did, just relax, steady preparing for bed, getting out of my clothes, getting into my pajamas, tidying up my desk, making myself a hot drink before bed. And all this time I'm saying the chants, Nam Mam Marengo Keo, Nam Mam Marengo Keo, Nam Mam Marengo Keo, all the damn time. But I suddenly had this flash of inspiration. What if I was to increase the pace? What if I was to be a bit louder? Okay, what would happen then? And so I did it. Nam Mam Marengo Keo, Nam Mam Marengo Keo, Nam Mam Marengo Keo, Nam Mam Marengo Keo. And I was enjoying it. My mood had changed and shifted. And I was feeling fantastic. And I could feel something energetic happening in me. And then I thought to myself, I know what I'll do. This will be a laugh. I'll make a wish. I'll make a wish. And I said out loud, I wish to see the future in my dreams, glimpses of the future. And I felt this energy expansion from the body, like a white thin gauze being thrown around, an explosion of light. And then I laughed. I laughed it off. I'm obviously being stupid. This is a silly thing to do. Screw this. I just laughed my head off for no particular reason. Then I went to bed and I had a dream, and it was odd. And I woke up in the dead of the night thinking, that was a weird dream. It was very short. I wonder what that could be about. A week or so later, things happened in my day. And the things that happened in my day in this short 1 minute time frame was everything, absolutely everything, to the very last detail, which I had seen in that dream a couple of weeks before. And I had no ability to choose what could happen during that minute. I was saying the same things that I said in that dream. I was experiencing and seeing the same things that I saw in that dream. My head was turning in the same directions that it did in that dream. And that carried on happening subsequently for a period of time. And then I realized, I mean, obviously that scared me rigid because it did, okay? But I realized there's something true in all of this stuff. And that little thing which I did, even before I'd heard about the methods of chaos magic, was essentially a carbon copy of a chaos magic ritual. It was. And things happened. And because of that, I picked up a pack of tarot cards from a bookstall on Portsmouth Pier, I think it was. And that was my first pack of cards that I bought secondhand, because I'd already got the Tarot of the Witches, which I don't have anymore, the one used in the Bond film from ages back. Live and Let Die, I think it was. Could be wrong there, I don't know. But this other one I got, it held a special thing in my heart. And that was, of course, the Oswald Worth Tarot, which I have on my table behind me. So yeah, that happened. Then, of course, I got involved with the pagan movements. I started attending their various different meetings, which, in my opinion, was a mistake, really, because I wasn't getting from them what I needed or what I wanted. What I was really doing was thinking, if the astral projection is true, if the prophetic dreams and visions is true, then maybe they can cure me of my diseases. And of course they didn't, because they couldn't. But that's all right, because later in life I become a Spooky 2 user. So I managed to improve my health dramatically with that. And of course, living a bit of an alternative health lifestyle. Yeah, it is rather odd, isn't it, that there's so many books on chaos magic to say use sex as a mean, or sexuality or sexual activity as a means of achieving gnosis, spelt with a G. Okay, it's rubbish. I cannot reach that state of mind of tranquil, reverent prayer with an expanded, enhanced aura through wanking myself to oblivion. And I have experimented along those lines. It can get messy. It's not good. I was young, but I think a lot of people who get involved with that aspect of chaos magic, it's almost like those sentences, those phrases in those chaos magic books are actually written there for people who've got sexual problems anyway. I mean, even though you know that tarot pack I showed in a video recently, the Kama Sutra one. It actually recommends you do a tarot reading prior to a masturbation session in the information book which goes with it. And I thought, no, right? Never, when I've been to a psychic fair to do readings, have I ever said, terribly sorry, I've just done a reading for you, now I need a wank. I mean, what? It's literally just what? And what kind of person? I mean, I wouldn't want to handle the cards of anyone who does that, okay? It's just not my sort of thing. No, it's okay, mate. You can do the shuffling. I'll just... I mean, I'm sure there are lots of people who believe that, sexual activity with your partner helps. I used to know this guy who would take a Post-it note, all right, a Post-it note, and draw a sigil on that and shove it on his girlfriend's forehead while sleeping with her. He can then do his witchcraft. And I don't think that that's like a very romantic way of having sex, actually. I mean, yeah, worst pickup line ever. Think about that. Go into a bar and say, "Hi, darling, how's it going? Oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, great, that's very interesting. Do you like music? Oh, what music do you like? Yeah, wonderful. By the way, I want to do a rather exotic magical ritual tonight to summon a demon. Would you mind lying on my bed whilst I sleep with you with a Post-it note stuck to your forehead with a sigil of the demon Asmodeus on it whilst I'm commanding the devil to send out this particular demon to kill my enemies? Would you mind terribly doing that for me?" Lovely. Okay. Well, have another drink, and I'll drive you home in my car, and it'll be all right. Oh, we could go to your place if you want, but I've got an entire temple at my place, black candles and sacrificial goats, the rest of it. Yeah, come on down. I mean, come off it. I don't think there is a difference. All right. I mean, all these things: chaos magic, high magic, folk magic, Wicca. These are traditions which have been created by people. I'm concerned and interested in the mechanism which goes on behind it. I don't want to hear someone turn around to me and say, "No, you can only banish the demon of Thingybob, what's his name, with a sword. And you can only use the dagger for Asmodeus, and it's only the..." Oh, shut up. That is religion. That is a bunch of beliefs. Yes, well, I believe it. Well, okay, so you're a lunatic who's got a brain chemistry problem. Why should I trust you? Crikey. What is the point? I mean, yes, I think, don't get me wrong here. Religion is important. Religion has importance. And there's a difference between important and importance, isn't there? All right? Religion has importance. I go to a Unitarian church because I know that I can enjoy the community. I can enjoy the feeling of it. I got their symbol here, if you can see that. There we go. And it's a chalice with a flame coming out of it, surrounded by two circles. That's what I do. That's the Unitarian Universalist symbol, which is present in America. We just have Unitarianism over here. And it's a creedless faith, which means it's very similar to Druidry in that respect, okay? And I can just go there and people won't hate me because I've got a Ouija board and I do tarot for a living, apart from the occasional individual who's a bit too fundamentalist with their Christianity. But they're not the majority. The vast majority of people will just accept me. And it's important for me to have a spiritual culture and community to go to. And I think that's true for a lot of people. I don't blame people for going to church. I don't blame people for going to mosque or synagogue or anything like that. I think that's a very good thing, and it's important to the psychology of the individual. All right. And now we just got more flavors. of religion out there. But do we really need them? What are they trying to achieve? I'm interested in hitting the right brainwave frequency as best as I can. I'm an experimenter like the rest of us. Okay? Because that's all we can be. We are not people who have total knowledge and skill in every single subject. But I think that what we can do is look at our experiences and work out what we can do best and better and what we're better designed to do, and to try and focus on that. So me having a history of chronic fatigue syndrome and candidiasis and the rest of that, therefore I am in a slightly weakened state, always. Therefore, I'm much better at receiving than transmitting. But I have done spiritual healing on people. There was a girl living next door many years ago, and I did a spiritual healing on her. My hands were about a foot away from her back, which needed the healing. A foot. And this was when I was like more designed by my energy field or whatever to be able to do the work. And I put my hands like that. And I sent, and I prayed, and I breathed the energy out. And she said, "Oh, I can feel fire and lightning from your hands." She said that to me. She could feel fire and lightning coming out of my hands. I couldn't see nothing, but she could feel it. There was one time I did a healing on my father, and he had knotted up shoulders, and it was all difficult. And again, my hands were about, a fair distance away from his back, from his shoulders, where the problem was. And he just suddenly said to me, "Nick, how comes your hands are so warm? You can't feel that quantity of intense heat from a person's hand if it's that far away." Experiences like this demonstrate there's some truth to this. And if there is some truth to this, I just hope and pray that one day this stuff gets properly involved in the medical in the medical world and in the therapeutic world properly. Because there's so much. Let's say someone goes for surgery, in a hospital properly, and then they come out and they're weak and they're out of sorts. They want to have as much healing as possible. If they could, on top of everything else that the doctor is telling them, if they could go and see a few good Reiki healers and spiritual healers and the rest of that, then I really am sure that there is going to be some type of improvement. All right. I'm not going to sell the idea of spiritual healing as a cure-all. I don't think it is. We always need a combination between the complementary and the alternative, and also the orthodox medical practices to do the best we can with health and well-being and clarity of mind. So I'm always going to say, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert at this, because we can't. All right. If someone turns around to you and says that they're an expert at witchcraft, or they're really, really skilled at magic and spiritualism and all the rest of that, tell them from me to go and find someone else to bother. Seriously, I'm sick to death of people being like that. All right? We have a serious responsibility and an obligation as people who have an influence over other people just by being what we are as readers, or as people involved in faith groups or involved in witchcraft. All right, we have a responsibility for how other people understand our subject. And that's why we need to be very careful of the use of language. And I will always be really, really upset by those silly people who use the phrase, "It works, it works, it works, it works." I think that they're children. I think that they are irresponsible. And I think that what they say and how they say it is damaging and detrimental. And I'll have no part of that. Seriously. Yeah, Luke says, "I've had a Reiki done and felt very good after. I was bouncing off the walls with good energy." Yeah. I saw a spiritual healer in Glastonbury way back in the 90s. And she put one hand on my shoulder, one hand on my wrist, and I could feel this hand getting hot, this hand getting cold, and a sense of negative energy being dragged out of me. There is something real here. Okay, so if some James Randi following skeptic or atheist wants to have a go at me, I can tell from lived experience that they are wrong. But what they are good at doing within the ecosystem of ideas in the world is to criticize, those who are giving very strong opinions. Like, oh, I can cure you of your disease. Yeah, right. Yeah, oh yeah, go on. Go on then. I'm waiting. I'm going to sit here and wait. You got until 9 o'clock in the morning to complete the work. Get it done now. And then I turn around, you can say, oh, it doesn't work like that. There's nothing else in the world that can really upset me as much as hearing people like that. Nothing. Oh, and that's another reason why I'm here. That's another reason why I'm on YouTube. Experiment, explore, do this stuff. I want you to. I think it's important to. But be careful with what you say, how you explain it, who you're explaining it to, why you're explaining it, in what way you're using your words. Because unless, I'm not going to change the world. I'm not going to change the world. Okay? But unless this world, which I'm in, changes its spots dramatically, and all the people in it change their spots dramatically, we are never going to be taken seriously, and there will never be any progress. All right? And all of the dogmatic, skeptical, atheistic bollocks is just going to be landed in front of us, obscuring the truth like a thick layer of cloud blocking the moon. I mean, let's be honest, right? We're in a world full of mental disease, physical disease. We're in a world full of suffering, poverty. Definitely lots of poverty now with the cost of living crisis in the UK and abroad. It's worse in the UK because this country decided to be stupid and leave the European Union. Yes, it is your connection, Bionic. My connection is fine, and I can see myself as clearly as I can on a low-resolution webcam. But I guess one question I could ask you people is, what else could you do to remove or reduce the religiosity from the occult movement? I mean, the development of some form of theology is very much part of what magic and occultism will do for you and to you. But it doesn't necessarily mean to say that you yourself have to be dogmatic of your own decisions or about your own decisions about what is apparently real in the world. All right? And there's no point in really arguing too much. It's just a question of making sure we are responsible people with responsible minds, exploring the world in a responsible way and searching for the truth responsibly. And explaining ourselves responsibly is probably one of the most important things that we can do. Okay? It's just really essential. Words have power. And I'm using this not in an occultic sense, but in a social interaction and political sense. Do you want me to tell you about my Angel of Death experience again? I know it's an ancient classic on this channel. Go on, let me know in the comment section if you do. We got one vote for a yes there. Okay, quickly with what Luke's just said there. People don't want change, so people are scared of what's different, and people are such sheep, they follow the flow. They follow what they think is true, what they've been educated to believe is true, what they've been told is important, or what they've been traumatized by political groups and church groups and family and experience to believe is true. And everyone appears to be in a mental state of being at war with those who are different. But those people who are different were made different by somebody else who told you that what they think is stupid. Which means that there's never going to be any search for the truth happening. In this stupid, we got computers. We got mobile phones. We've got the internet. We've got modern medicine for its both good and bad. But humans are primitive. All of us, including myself. I am a primitive monkey. And now, let's go a little darker, shall we? Delving into the darkness, which I know full well everyone in this who watches me actually likes me talking about sort of dark, scary things. I was in my early 20s, which is when I gained most of my more intense experiences. And I'd been to a few witchcraft meetings. And I thought, okay, this is the time when I'm going to experiment. And I started making ritual tools. I made myself a ritual tool spear and a little altar type thing and that sort of stuff. And I thought, I'm going to do this thing. Now, the precise sequence of all the things I put into it, I don't really remember. But I made myself a Wiccan-style robe, and in my mind's eye, I looked the part. I did invocation of the elements around north, east, south, and west. I used the prayers from the book Transcendental Magic by Eliphas Levi for the quarters. And then I did some prayer of my own creation. And then I took the magical square of Saturn with its numbers. And in sequence, left to right, in the rows, I chanted the numbers. And I did that again and again and again and again and again until I felt a subtle shift in me. I then asked the Archangel Cassiel to come. And with my hand in the symbol of the benediction, I drew a simplified version of the symbol of Saturn 3 times in the air, visualizing it in light. And I bid the spirit of the angel of death to arrive and come. And I then thought, this is all a bit silly, really, isn't it? But I might as well follow the procedure. And I closed the circle down, anti-clockwise, drawing the pentagrams the way you're meant to. And I then went to bed, remembering, of course, that I was a young man in my early 20s, and I was a bit of a screwed up little kid, as most young people in their early 20s are. And my mind suddenly got very racked with all kinds of anxiety and fear, and without making a sound, I felt myself releasing it out of me with the words, "Why must I suffer like this?" Purely mentally. Then I sent it more or less in the middle of the circle. Almost instantly, I felt this thing like an energy shock to the body, coming into the brain and going through me, which carried the words, "Because you chose it." And that was a weird experience. But something inside me resonated with that. And I thought, I think I did choose it at some point. So long before I was born, I chose some of the things that would happen to me in my life. Could that be possible? I don't know. Either way, I went to bed. I turned over onto my left-hand side. And I started to try and go to sleep because it had been a long day. I felt on my right shoulder this warmth and pressure. Not really uncomfortable, but just very, very odd. And also on my thigh as well, this feeling of warmth and pressure. It felt like a gentle, sparkly energy, for want of a better phrase. And I thought, oh, what is that? I'm half awake, I'm half asleep, I'm not with the world, I'm tired. And I turned around and I looked up, and made out of tiny little black and red dots flying around, almost like a swarm, was this thing in the shape of an biologically accurate skeleton, made of red and black dots floating around in a swarm. And it had one hand on my shoulder and one hand on my hip. And as I looked around, and I was surprised and scared by seeing this thing, it faded, like turning down a volume knob. It just faded away. But it left this atmosphere of warmth and comfort and wisdom. The cat is both black and white. Just for yourself, Bionic. But that was my experience. Now, make of that what you will. The whole thing could have been suggestion. The whole thing could have been hypnotism. The whole thing could have been hallucination, bad diet, vitamin and mineral deficiencies, ill health. But because of the whole experience of it, I'm more inclined to think that all my ill health issues have made me weak and receptive. And that something which has wisdom and was capable of telling me that the things in my life were somehow chosen by me before I was born, suggests to me something else is going on here. I do regard that as an angel experience. And I do regard that as a real experience. But like all of these things, you can either build a theology, a belief in the spiritual world or in God. Okay. Or you can question it. You can question, what does this actually mean? What else could be going on here? And to a certain extent, I don't think it matters. I mean, when you've tried astral projection and you've shared dreams with people and you've communicated a message to someone and it was successful, that's like more like a real test, if you know what I mean. Especially if they didn't know that you're that weird or that you were doing astral projections anyway, or attempting them at least. All right, it's because that guy way back when I was in college that I influenced didn't know I was doing it, but yet like nearly a year later could like recount the story to me. And the time of year was the same. Everything was the same. The things he dreamt about was what I was creating in his mind. Now, I'm not saying this to say, look, I can do this. I have done this, therefore I can do this. No. It's a question of, at that time, the circumstances of mind, body, energy field, aura, whatever, happened to be right for me to be able to. Now, if I was to attempt the same thing, if my body was different, I know my diet was different, my vitamin and minerals levels were different, my ability to get into the same state of mind was different, my neurogenesis and plasticity had affected me in different ways, then the experimental laboratory that you're working with will be different. And you can't get the same results if, like, the chemicals that you're using and the physics that you're using and everything else is different. How can you make a nice cup of tea if you haven't got any tea bags? How can you make a nice cup of tea if you haven't got any water? How can you make a nice cup of tea if all you've got is vodka? You know, if the laboratory, brain and body is different, your ability to achieve something will be different. Dean Radin said that he provided an analogy with the various psychic experience type people. And also the skill of elite level baseball players, I think it was. And he said that the batting averages of individuals is variable because human skill is variable. Okay, so that's another component. It's all the things happening in your mind, all the things happening in your body. You're setting with all of this stuff, which can enable these things to work. It's not quite that black and white. I mean, if I was to go up to a pagan magician these days, and they were going to be open with what they thought, and I was to say, how could I do a spell, let's say, to bring someone some spiritual healing? And what they would do is they would tell me about the tradition, they'd tell me about the religion, the color candle, the style, the way you draw your pentagram. No. That's useful for them because they have developed an affinity with a certain symbol system. And they are believing too much in that as being the mechanism, as opposed to the mind and the body and the suggestions going through you. Do you understand? So this is why you can't actually learn magic from a magician. You can't learn magic from a witch. You can't learn witchcraft from a witch. There isn't much point in asking someone, well, how did you do that? Well, what I did is I lit a yellow candle on a Tuesday afternoon in accordance with my ancient tradition and the right planetary hours. And I'll be sitting there thinking, go away. Just go away. I want to know how you did that thing. And all you're doing is lying to me. Because all that stuff which you're telling me is not necessarily specifically relevant to the task. The way I built my understanding is that if you were to, let's say, cast a circle, all right, it's like you're making a definitive moment that that's it. That's where whatever it is you're doing starts. And everything else you do in that carries meaning. Okay, which could be literally just chanting, literally just prayer. And then raising enough energy and sending it out with a wish or an action, which basically does the same thing, so long as I guess the intention that's coming out of you is right for that thing. And then that's like a blob of information within your little ritual circle or temple or whatever it is you're using, which then has capacity to affect something else, possibly. I mean, in radionics, they always talk about the witness sample, the thing you use to symbolize your target. The more I think about this, I think the thing you use to symbolize your target has got to be pretty on point in order for like it to work intellectually. All right, does that make sense? I don't know if it makes sense to you or not. But yeah, I mean, the talking about this talk about, you don't have to raise energy, you don't have to increase your chanting, you don't have to get lots of energy flowing around the place, it is rubbish. It's just like WTF. There's lots of WTF moments in the whole occult movement. All right, it's just like the world is full of it. Okay, well, I'm not going to be online for that much longer. But does anybody here want a quick tarot reading? Does anybody here want a quick tarot reading? Is there anybody there? Okay, Matt. If you could chip me something on Super Chat at some point, either on here or Super Thanks at some point on another video I've done, that would be good. But I will answer your question. What is your question today, Matt? Do you have a question for me? And silence reigned on the heavens and on the earth. Do you think the loved ones who have passed away visit us in our dreams? If you think about what I've been saying and how I've been saying it, you would realize that I would say that you can have the experience of a loved one visiting you in your dreams. My opinion would be possibly yes, possibly no. Because we have to work out whether what we're seeing in our visions is from within us or from outside affecting us. And sometimes trying to work out how it feels for this to be happening could possibly be the thing which informs you. But we should never, in my opinion, come to conclusions too readily. Okay, Matt says, how will the Mars Dasher go? I don't know what the Mars Dasher is, so I'm not going to be able to give you too much detail. But I can have a look at the cards and see what's coming on through. Okay, one deck of cards, one question. And all I'm going to do is spread this out, have my mind focus on your name, my intention focus on trying to find an answer which is relatively good. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we can do you a little reading. And it might be useful, it might not be useful, it might be accurate, it might not. But if it gives you an opportunity to think things through, then that's essentially what I do. I've got a cat who's meowing at me. I'll be with you shortly. Okay. because the cat wants more food and medicine, so he's got to be medicated. Okay, the 3-card reading for this is actually quite curious. You'll notice your 5 of Cups is reversed, which could possibly signify that if you're anxious about it, you don't need to be as anxious about it as you think. All right, something interesting is about to occur in this Mars dash or whatever it is, which appears to be slightly more beneficial and uplifting and could lead to more positives happening afterwards, possibly even as a result of the process going through it. Okay, the 2nd card, reversed 2 of Cups. It looks like whatever this venture, this thing is, it's something a person has to do very much by themselves. It's not necessarily as much of a team effort, even though there is a team behind them. Final card, strength, stability, wisdom, power. Suggesting things being put into effect. I mean, the symbol of the 4 of discs in this card is to do with construction, it's to do with building, it's to do with a keep, a fortress, protection. It's also to do with a place where you feel comfortable to be able to make further decisions about the future. So whatever's happening with Mars Dasher is going to be a platform upon which further developments can happen. The way it seems to me. Okay. So I've now been talking for 1 hour and 50 minutes. And I hope that you have enjoyed it. This show is coming to an end. The cat is actually sticking his claws into me to try and make sure I give him some more attention. And as you well know, if you've got a cat, you don't negotiate with it. You do as he says. And he's very good at articulating himself. So I'll see you around again. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, favorite, share, click the bell, and all the other fun stuff. And if you want me to do another one of these things, I'll be happy to do that too. It's your support which counts, and I'm grateful for every single viewer, whether you're viewing this recorded or whether you're viewing this live. And I'll speak to you soon. Quickly, Luke. Yeah, those dreams could be to do with your deceased father. Try and study lucid dreaming. See if you can have a conscious experience with him. Or alternatively, you can write down your question to him on a piece of paper, shove it under your pillow at night, and then write down your dreams first thing in the morning before your feet hit the ground. That's actually quite a good method that a lot of people have got some benefit from. Okay, time for me to go before my throat does. Thank you very much, Matt. You're very kind and considerate and wonderful. But I have to go as I'm getting tired. Speak to you in a bit. Bye for now.